के फोन करो हम ब्रज सर को दीन सर को दीन सर को थरे फोन करो ना का नंबर के जदे मोर फोन टा ये हो जाई जे देखो टिके
हां मैडम करूची
हां सर कर काई
मैडम सर नमस्कार सर सर गोपेश्वरी कहतली नहीं बार बोलछन मैडम सर
हां
कनेक्ट नहीं हे परबार बोलछन सर कनेक्ट करू छे कनेक्ट नहीं हे परबार बोलछन
एट मैडम किसी आसुनी तो माने कनेक्शन पे समस्त आसुनी मो एक्सेप्ट मारुती मैडम
कार टीवी गोटे ऑन हो जाई छी सर हमें कौन करे स्टार्ट कर देबा की
स्टार्ट करन तो आ कोन करी
हां सर सर पर जॉइन करिवे न ना
कनेक्ट हे पर नि कहउचंती
समस्त नंबर टिके म्यूट कर दे छिबा हेलो जे कहिबे से खाली ऑन करिवे अन्य मन को समस्त म्यूट कर देबे We will start now. Respected Director Sir Professor Dr. L. Meher, our chief guest today, our guest of honor Professor B. M. Misra, Dean and Principal, our chief speaker Professor Gunasagar Das, and our guest speaker Professor Dr. Sadhu Charan Pandya. And today's all panelists present here, and all the speakers and all the participants. It's a very good evening. I welcome you all to this webinar, which we are celebrating today from on behalf of Department of Ophthalmology on the eve of celebration of World Sight Day. Every year, second Thursday of October is celebrated as World Sight Day to create awareness among public regarding various ocular disorders and regarding its prevention and management. And the theme of the current year, theme of the World Sight Day is Hope in Sight. So let us have a very good hope in sight in improving the vision. And today we'll have a very good discussion on various ocular disorders and how we are tackling here in our institute also. Thank you. Once again, I welcome you all to the
Professor Dora, Professor Gunasagar Das, Professor Sadhu Charan Pandya, professors of other faculty, other department, all the faculties of ophthalmology department, the galaxy of speakers, and all the participants. Good evening to each and everyone. I extend my hearty appreciation to Professor Dora and all the organizers for making me a part of this webinar. We all know that this World Sight Day is one of the very important day, and the primary objective is to focus our attention on vision impairment. It is estimated that somewhere around even 1 billion of people suffer from vision impairment because of the lack of glass even. So this is a pitiable affair that we are having now. Vision is one of the very important aspects of life, especially for personal activity, communication, learning, and many other things. Nobody can enjoy life without vision. No, it is one of the most important aspects of each and every individual. There are several factors which are responsible for impairment of vision. It could be simple refractive error, disease like diabetes, which is very, very common, trauma to the eye, trachoma, cataract, age-related macular degeneration, keratomalacia, even glaucoma. All these are very important causes of blindness or impairment of vision, and many of them can be preventable. That is very, very important, and easily we can improve the vision with even small measures. So we all have to understand that eye healthcare has to be an integral part of our healthcare system, and we have to upgrade our healthcare system so that nobody is devoid of or deprived of any this visual problem, problem due to any vision, so that we can extend service to them. We have to focus primarily on the prevention aspect, and you all know that vitamin A supplementation is one of the very important, which is being followed nowadays, and one of the very successful program in prevention of keratomalacia. Screening for ROP, you all know nowadays being done in many centers. There is again one of the very important and a commendable program which can prevent blindness in many premature children. Similarly, diabetes, if it is properly controlled, hypertension, dyslipidemia, if they are properly controlled, we can help these patients to a large extent to prevent blindness or to even postpone blindness to a large extent. So on this great occasion, I appreciate very much the selfless service of all the ophthalmologists and salute to them. Let us take a place that we all work together to help people, those who are visually impaired. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, our Dean sir is, he could not, sir, join karibe sir. আমি start कर देजो. Sir, आउ थरे टे join करंतु. ठीक है sir, आउ थरे टे join करंतु. So now I request our chief speaker, Professor Dr. Gunasagar Das, to address the gathering. Vijay,
हाँ मैम
sir को तुम accept करो, ब्रज sir.
करूची मैडम.
Then Dean and Principal and Superintendent and my dear friends, actually era. Hello, in this COVID era, there is no hope in sight. We do not see roads ahead. So and tomorrow, that also do not know. However, we are COVID, we are doctors, we are meant for the patient service. So before rendering service, I appeal all my fellow beings to protect first themselves by using this proper PPE, personal protective equipment, then render service to the patient and to the people. So I appeal the authorities, the government, everybody to first protect the COVID warriors. Then only they can render service or they can render vision to many visually handicapped patients. Now you see many of our doctor friends, colleagues, they are suffering from corona. Many have died also. So this is high time that the authority should take all out action to protect the COVID warriors, our ophthalmologists, our doctors, so that they can render service to the ailing persons. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our chief's guest speaker, Professor Sadhu Charan Panda, to address the gathering. Sadhu Panda, sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sir, अच्छा.
हाँ
विजय सर को साइड कहले शेयर करू.
हाँ विजिबल ना
आरंभ करिवे तो
यस सर.
बिना दृष्टि व्यर्थ ए सृष्टि बिना दृष्टि व्यर्थ ए सृष्टि आउ भयंकर हो जाए जेबे ता लागि थाए अपपुष्टि. So today the World Sight Day, and I can remember that the health literacy should start from doctors, because I can just visualize on the roadside you see the cows and the bulls, they remain indifferent to the blow of horns and the speedy because they are used to it. Simply in Odia there is a Kamsari Ghara Para. Wherever they just make sounds while repairing the buttons, the pigeons there, they are indifferent to it. Similarly, we doctors, when we deal with diseases, tackle with diseases, we are not aware of our own conditions. We are very indifferent, we are reckless, we neglect ourselves. So, health literacy, as the charity should begin at home, our health literacy should also begin from our end. So as far as the World Sight Day also is concerned, we should be concerned with our sight. And of course, we should help all the eye warriors to fight to ensure sight. With these words, I want that our webinar should go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Today,
Thank you, sir. So we'll start the our webinar. Dean sir could not join till now. I think he is having some problem with network. So now I request Dr. Rabindra Kumar Chaudhary will give a talk on Sunetra, an initiative of Odisha
सर
government.
नमस्कार सर मु विजय कहूची सर सर ये
विजन करबो
मु करे किसी सर इनवाइट ये आसुनी सर किछि मु समस्त जेति जन आसुन समस्त वेट करछि
तार पर नेटवर्क भल नथियो जा जा
नेटवर्क कोन प्रॉब्लम होछि
ए डाटा बहुत गुडा समय प्रॉब्लम होछि एटा ए नंबर वाईफाई न लगेले
सर फोन रे करछन ना लैपटॉप रे सर सर आईडी पास डायरेक्ट तो सर से लिंक रे ये कले जॉइन होउछि
नहीं आईडी पासवर्ड दरकार नहीं पड़वा
ते लिंक टच कर दून खाली
लिंक टा रिफ्रेश कर देले होछि सर.
Unless you touch the link, everything will sync. Sir, when you are smiling, the whole the surrounding becomes pink.
पिंक
कोरोना गीताटे पढ़िबार उचित थिला आपनकर
ने सेटा मो आगे कर गीतटा के छोट हे गेला मोर मन के ने पहला मी बाबूतले 5-7 मिनट लगवा बे लिखरी ये जल्दी सर देले आपन
रवि
Hey,
Hello?
Prakash will join me.
Rabindra kon
हाँ,
nahi ki?
हाँ,
Prakash ni
ଅଛି
gote
ମା।
कवि
Are you online?
हाँ yes ma'am, ମୁଁ online ଅଛି, share କରିବି?
Oh, you should start now.
Dr.
Okay.
PK Mandi is looking gorgeous on the backdrop of so many, you see, motif, design.
Vijay, Vijay,
सर
Vijay.
हाँ सर
share ହେଲା?
हाँ सर admit करन ଶୁଭୁଛି सर
ହଁ unmute କରିଛି ନା?
Okay.
ଶୁଭୁଛି ନା? ଶୁଭୁଛି ନା? screen ଟା share ହେଲା?
हाँ सर स्क्रीन शेयर हो
Is the screen showing?
Hela, it's
sir.
visible.
Okay. Okay. A very good evening to all of you, respected director sirs, respected dean sirs, and respected all the dignitaries who are on the dais and also who are on the virtual of the dais. So I will be discussing today one of the important aspects of the control of blindness. The program is known as Sunetra, and initiatives of Odisha government. So before going to the program, we should actually know what is the problem faced and what is the magnitude of the visual blindness in the world as well as in India. As far as 2000, as far as 2017 data, the blindness in the throughout the world is 36 million, and it was estimated that by the year 2020, 38.5 million will be blind, and by the year 2050, the blindness will rise up to 115 millions. If you come to this blindness in India, it contributes almost 1/5 of the blindness in the world, around 8 millions. So it is only the blindness. Apart from that, visual impairment is also there. I'm only giving the data of the blindness. Coming to the what we have done so far in the world or in India to control the blindness. Let's go back to history. Or also it is a continuing program also. WHO and the IAPB, it is also known as International Agency for Prevention of Blindness. It is a non-governmental agencies. These two organizations have actually worked on control of blindness. Accordingly, there are 4 programs we are running to control the blindness. In 1978, a program first was launched by WHO, Prevention of Blindness Programs. Then in 1999, another important program came that is known as everyone usually aware of. It was started in 1999, and there are 5 diseases mainly given priorities in these programs, which mainly affect the mainly the cause of blindness. One is number 1 is cataract, childhood blindness, trachoma, onchocerciasis, and refractive errors. These are the 5 diseases mainly which affect the blind, which affect the vision given priority in this program. Third is Vision for the Future. It was launched in 2001. Here, ICO, International Council of Organization, a body, mainly they deal with these programs, and it is just a supplementary program to this Vision 2020. But last but not the least, the recent programs, which was started in 2004, Universal Eye Health programs. Under this Universal Eye Health programs, the Sunetra is included, and this is a Sunetra is a program of mainly Odisha. Coming to the Universal Eye Health, it is the recent programs which deals with the control of blindness. A resolution passed by World Health Assembly, which builds upon Vision 2020, the right to sight. The Vision 2020 right to sight came to force in 1999, but in 2020, WHO again added some things to augment the process of controlling blindness. The main target of this Universal Eye Health program was reduction of prevalence of avoidable blindness and visual impairment by 25% by the year 2019. Whatever the amount of blindness is there, we have to reduce up to 25%. This was the target. Now come to Sunetra. It is a part of this universal eye health. And we are lucky, Odisha, in India, Odisha was the first state to launch this universal eye health programs on World Sight Day on 12th October 2017. And they called it as Sunetra. And it is the political will of our present Chief Ji, who placed 600 to be spread over 5 years, and 1/3 of this budget has already been sanctioned and already been utilized for the control of blindness. And the message that was kept in Sunetra is eye care for all by 2022. What is the objective of Sunetra? To assess the magnitude and cause of blindness and visual impairment in the state. What is the magnitude? See, in India, the magnitude we know. In world, the magnitude we know. But till yet, there is no data in Odisha. What is the prevalence of blindness and visual impairment? Till date, no concrete. But in Andhra Pradesh, they have done a separate study, Andhra Pradesh eye disease study. They have calculated their incidence, all that things. Second objective is raising the skilled manpower. By raising the skilled manpower, we can control the blindness by appropriate training to this manpower. Training to the ophthalmologist as a modern eye care technology. This is also the objective of Sunetra. And the fourth one is digitalization of the eye health care delivery system. Nowadays, everything is digitalized. For example, we are now doing a virtual conference. So everything is digitalized. So digitalization was given priority in eye health care delivery systems like teleophthalmology unit, everything. And the last but not the least, integrating the primary and secondary healthcare with proper referral systems. Proper referral systems should be a part in Sunetra. So in Sunetra, till date, what we have done, this was the objective. But what we have achieved in this, it was started in 2017. I think now 2020. Those corona is an obstacle in this program, but still we have gone very far in our achievements. We have already to assess the prevalence of blindness as an objective in the state. 88,000 populations from 10 districts, mainly from the coastal districts, have been surveyed. And they have assessed the prevalence of blindness. And more important thing is that along with the blindness surveys, the study also look for demographic profiles, nutritional status of these pupils, food habits of the pupils, eye care, and barrier for it. So it is not only just a prevalence study, it is a comprehensive database on the eye health status of the state. And this study is popularly known as Odisha Eye Disease, and it is acronym as ODC. As Odisha is a part of this world now, it is ODC study. It is famous as ODC study. Again, by gap analysis, that is global action plan analysis tool, the study found that requirement around 420 vision centers are required in our state. 84 secondary centers, 8 to 9 tertiary centers are required to cater or to serve or to control the blindness in Odisha. Another important thing, it has been started by the government of Odisha, the introduction of allied ophthalmic personnel course. It is also running in our department also, COA course and CSA course. COA stands for Certified Ophthalmic Assistant and CSA stands for Certified Surgical Assistant. It is a 2-year course, and here the +2 students are the eligibility criteria, and they're taking this course, and they will help in future in controlling blindness. We are training them, and in the last month only, a batch has completed both COA or CSA course successfully. All the students passed in this last month only. Coming to the retraining of the existing 200 ophthalmic personnel in the state. This is also a part of this Sunetra. COA CSA is a new course, but already it has around 200 ophthalmic personnel are there in Odisha, and we have to upgrade them by retraining. So this is again an initiative by the Odisha government to retrain that same existing persons so that they can update their knowledge and they can help in this the control of blindness. Then establishment of skill centers to train ophthalmologists. Whatever the skill centers are available is not adequate to control the blindness. We need to have a lot of skill centers, just like Apex centers, like in Odisha, LB Prasad Eye Institute there. But Odisha government is trying to make the medical college a skill center to train the electronic medical record system should be there to data analysis. So we are just using the data to enter our to keep the record, but we have to convert it to electronic record systems so that the data analysis and research purpose it will be very useful. Special focus should be given to school eye health screening. As Director Sir was telling, refractive errors is the one of the most important cause of blindness because of the lack of school eye health screenings. So Odisha government also feeling that the same things, they will giving screening programs more to the school eye health. A recommendation of setting up EPIC centers. EPIC centers means Eye Health Planning and Innovation Center. These are the apex body which mainly deals with the planning, policy, and research thing, so that what are the future programs we can do after this, they can tell. So to conclude my statements, the take-home message here will be achieving the short-term goal is an important as laying the foundation of long terms. If done well, this Sunetra program in Odisha could be the model state in India in universal eye health coverage. Thank you. Thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Hello. Is there any program of surveying of all the citizens of Odisha and make a health eye card so that you can know what diseases the citizens are suffering or the persons of Odisha are suffering? Is there any such program in Sunetra?
In Sunetra, madam, sir, the program mainly deals with the prevalence of blindness and eye health disease. In they have also given other aspects of this like food habits, nutritional status, and all that things. And they have done 20,000 households in a stratified and systemic sampling manners. Around 88,000 population has been already been covered in the 10 districts. Mainly in the coastal part of all the districts have been covered, and the rest part of the district, like 19 districts, are still yet to be covered. So it is just only 3 years has been passed, and the corona part is, I think, obstructing that things. And by 2022, everything, a concrete data of blindness in the Odisha and will be assessed. Apart from that, what are the barriers we are facing to control the blindness? That also be assessed. And Dr. P.P. Das is heading this study, I think, and their team is doing really well, and 2.5 years has already been passed, and we are also a part of it as a medical college teachers and medical college faculties. So those citizens, every citizen, they have not yet studied, but they have done a systemic and random sampling of 88,000 populations. They are only looking after what are the disease prevalence different area wise, and what are the barriers they are facing in controlling blindness or controlling treatment, how this visually, and what is the prevalence of visual impairments, how to cater them. They are working on that. It is now an ongoing study, still continuing.
Yes, actually everybody should have a health card, including the eye health conditions. Everybody, every citizens should have a health card, including the eye.
Sir. It is a good suggestion by you, sir. Definitely, it should be implemented in Sunetra programs. As a president of ex-president of OSSS, actually you can guide others, Dr. TP Das also, to include that card system, sir. That will be really good idea, sir.
I will talk with TP Das. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ravi. Our next speaker is Dr. Prashant Konda. He is going to talk on cataract blindness and our achievements. Prashant.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, my respected teachers and my colleagues, to all the chairpersons, panelists, and speakers, and all those who are viewing this webinar. Today, I am going to give a little information about the various types of cataract surgeries in the past, as well as in the present, which we are doing in our setup in our institute. Vijay, can we just share my screen?
Next case.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, coming to the evolution of cataract surgery, first we should know what is cataract. It is actually a development of any opacification in the lens or its capsule, which leads to a decrease in vision due to blockage in the visual axis. It is derived from the word cataractus, which means waterfall. These are of various types, and the current incidence is of this following magnitude. Within the 50 to 59 years age group, around 65% population are already having some amount of lens opacity, and it gradually increases as the years of age increase. Coming to classification of the cataract, it may be broadly divided into cortical cataract as well as nuclear cataract. And there is also a specific type of cataract which is known as posterior subcapsular cataract. Cortical cataract affects mainly the peripheral portion of the lens fibers, but the nuclear cataract, it involves in the central part of the lens. And there may also be anterior polar cataract as well as posterior polar cataract in the lens. So we have a lens opacity classification system, LOCS3, which we use to classify and grade various types of cataracts. Coming to the major periods in the history, first it is done in India, couching. It was done around 3000 years ago by Sushruta himself. And then after that, we came to an era where there was extraction of the lens itself. And then there was in toto extraction, which was intracapsular. That means along with the cataractus lens, we also removed the whole of the lens, including the capsule. And nowadays, the common trend is microsurgery, which is extracapsular type, where we keep the lens capsule and there is implantation of intraocular lens in that capsular bag. Coming to the history, couching was first developed in India by Sushruta himself, as it depicted in this picture. And due to shortage of time, we should not discuss history. And coming to the blocks and anesthesia which we use in our cataract surgery, it may be broadly divided into local or general. And local anesthesia can again be divided into surface anesthesia or topical anesthesia and regional anesthesia, where we used to block the whole of the oculomotor nerve. The common local anesthetic agent which we use in regional blocks are lidocaine 2% with hyaluronidase of 15 units per ml. It gives a greater duration if we add bupivacaine along with it. And the other types of anesthetic agents are 2-chlorprocaine, mepivacaine, prilocaine, ropivacaine, and others. And in this injection, we also add epinephrine to improve the onset time, quality and duration of the block, as well as hyaluronidase, which facilitates the spread of the anesthetic in the tissues. Coming to types of blocks, first we should discuss retrobulbar anesthesia, where we give injection of anesthetic in the muscle cone behind the eyeball. Here the aim is to block the oculomotor nerve by depositing the local anesthetic in the posterior intraconal space. Here it is a very quick onset is there and reliable akinesia, but there may be chances of injury to the preferred block, which is now given in our setup. This is peribulbar block. It is given outside the muscle cone, and hence it avoids all the disadvantages of retrobulbar anesthesia. Here it utilizes a higher volume of anesthetic, which is given by 20 gauge needle, and it is given transcutaneously or transconjunctivally. The onset is normally after around 5 minutes, and it persists around 30 to 45 minutes of time. There is also a newer trend of block which is given, which is subtenon's block, which we give in the subtenon space or below the tenon's fossa. As you can see in the picture, retrobulbar is given just behind the eyeball in the intraconal space, whereas peribulbar is given just above or below the eyeball. Coming to the latest technique of anesthesia, which we are currently doing in our setup in VSS in ophthalmology department, is topical anesthesia, where we use proparacaine eye drops. Frequent instillation is being done prior to surgery, and here most of the cases are usually done in the United States. So the advantages are topical anesthesia are no risk of needle insertion or any prick. There is reduced risk of any periocular hemorrhage. Functional vision is maintained during the operation also. And there is also reduced post-op diplopia and ptosis or paralysis of the eyelids. But some disadvantages are also there. The patient should be very cooperative and understanding the value of the surgery. So if the patient is distracting, you may face difficulties, and there is no akinesia, and therefore the movement of the eyeball is there. And coming to general anesthesia, normally we do not give general anesthesia in regular cataract surgery, but these are suitable for babies, children, elderly, and any uncooperative patients. So coming to the types of surgery which we do, in the past we used to do ICCE, which is intracapsular cataract extraction, and currently we are doing ECCE, which is extracapsular cataract extraction. ICCE is obsolete nowadays, but it is reserved in such cases such as subluxated lens or dislocated lens, whereas ECCE is a preferred method of choice. Here, no stitches are required, self-healing, and we can give a intraocular lens implant, and post-operative complications are also minimal. Coming to intracapsular cataract extraction, as you can see in this diagram, the entire cataract lens along with the intact capsule is removed from the eye itself. Coming to extracapsular cataract extraction, here the major portion of the anterior capsule with epithelium and nucleus and cortex are removed, leaving behind intact posterior capsule. The current indications are it is surgery of choice for all types of adulthood as well as childhood cataracts unless it is contraindicated. And the contraindications are subluxated, grossly subluxated lens and dislocated lens. The types of extracapsular cataract extraction are conventional ECC, manual small incision cataract surgery also known as SICS, and the current mode of preferred treatment is phacoemulsification. In conventional ECC, we give a large incision along the limbus of the eye, and then we do a rhexis in which the anterior capsule is breached and the whole of the cortex and the nucleus of the lens is removed, and then it is washed for remnant cortical matter, and then intraocular lens is given. But in manual small incision cataract surgery, which is now being done abundantly throughout all of India, here we give a superior rectus suture, and instead of giving a large incision in the limbus, there is a sclerocorneal tunnel is formed through which we remove the whole of the cataractous lens, and then we give intraocular lens. coming to phacoemulsification surgery, it is a, here we give the corneal slug incision normally in the temporal side, and it is very small, around 3 mm, as compared to 6 to 7 mm incision in small incision cataract surgery. And here the procedure is same. We do capsulorhexis or the tearing of the anterior capsule, and there is a removal of the lens itself in the bag by fragmentation and aspiration by phacoemulsification machine. Coming to the types of intraocular lens implantation, the various types of lenses are used are anterior chamber intraocular lens, iris supported lenses, and posterior chamber lenses. Posterior chamber lenses, also known as PCIOL, are the most appropriate and give most advantages rather than anterior chamber IOL and iris supported lenses. And in the anterior chamber IOL, it lies entirely in front of the iris in this case. And ACOL can be inserted after ICCE or ECCE, but it is not very popular due to high incidence of bullous keratopathy and secondary glaucoma. Iris supported lenses can be given with the help of sutures, loops, or claws, and it can be given where there is no posterior bag support or posterior capsular support. And PCOL is the normal IOL of choice, and this may be given in the ciliaris sulcus, which is present in front of the lens, or in the capsular bag after the removal of the cataractous lens. Most common method of the PCOLs are modified C-loop, like given in this picture. And, this may be of 3 types depending on the substance it is made. This is rigid IOLs made from PMM material, foldable IOLs which can be made of silicone, acrylic, or hydrogel and polymer, but commonly we are using now as acrylic material. And newer coming lenses are rollable IOLs, which require a very small incision entry and can be given. So currently, due to the COVID scenario, the case number is very short in our setup now, because routine cases are not currently being done. But apart from some indications we are doing. So currently from April 2020, we have done a total of SICs 49. Out of which local or peribulbar block has been given in 45 cases, and topical, as madam has done, in 4 cases of and then total phacoemulsification we have done 6 cases, which we have done in local block in 2 cases and topical phaco in 4 cases. Apart from that, we are also doing glaucoma surgery, pterygium surgery, vitreoretina surgery in our ophthalmology department. Thank you. I'd like to share a video of a phacoemulsification surgery. Vijay, it is visible?
Video task, sir. Slide task, sir.
Cataract, the clouding of the eye's natural lens, a structure which is positioned behind the cornea, iris, and pupil. Like the glass lens of a camera, our lens adjusts to focus our vision. The lens is mostly made up of water and protein. As we age, obscuring portions of the lens. To correct this, a doctor may recommend phacoemulsification cataract surgery. Before
it is not visible.
The surgeon knows the area with anesthesia. Pressure may also be applied to decrease.
Prashant, it is not visible.
Excuse me, 1 minute, madam.
Video is not visible.
I'm showing from YouTube itself. Vijay, is it visible?
No, sir.
No.
Cataract is the clouding of the eye's natural lens, a structure which is positioned behind the cornea, iris, and pupil.
We can hear. Yes.
Now it is.
Now it is.
Focus our vision. The cataract is the clouding of the eye's natural lens.
Visible now? Vijay?
Yes, sir.
Iris and pupil. Like the glass lens of a camera, our lens adjusts to focus our vision. The lens is mostly made up of water and protein. As we age, these proteins change and may begin to clump together, obscuring portions of the lens.
Video is not visible.
The doctor may recommend phacoemulsification cataract surgery. Before the procedure, the surgeon numbs the area with anesthesia. Pressure may also be applied to decrease the internal pressure within the eye. This will lower the chances of complications later in the surgery. Then a small incision is made in cornea of the eye. Fluids are injected into this incision to support the surrounding structures. Top of the lens capsule is then removed to gain access to the cataract. The surgeon then uses ultrasonic waves to fragment and emulsify the clouded portions of the lens. They are then removed. As the cataract is removed, an intraocular lens, or IOL, will be placed into the empty lens capsule. Small struts will hold it in place. Once properly positioned, the synthetic IOL restores the patient's vision.
Okay, madam. Thank you for giving me time for this presentation.
Thank you, Prashant. And it is a good thing that this phaco is being done in local anesthesia at Burla. So I express my thanks to all.
The topical SICs is also being done by our HOD, madam.
Okay.
Sir.
Thank you, sir, for such a nice presentation. Next topic in today's webinar is diabetic retinopathy by Dr. P.K. Sharma, sir. Sorry.
Vijay sir, achanti ki?
PK Sharma sir achanti na nahi?
I think no.
Hello?
No, ma'am. She is not there. Not there.
I think he's not there.
Ma'am, next topic jiba ki?
Next कौन ଅଛି?
Next topic is eye banking and corneal transplantation by Professor Dr. Jayashiv Dora.
How to share?
Yes. In the middle there is a share screen option thibo ma'am.
हेलो मैडम प्रथमे डेस्कटॉप रे रखि जंतु तापर शेयर कोन हबो
डेस्कटॉप रे रखि देछि तो
हां तापर शेयर कोन तळे अछि
तळे मझी रे गोटे शेयर स्क्रीन थिबो मैडम
ग्रीन कलर
मिडिल रे मैडम शेयर स्क्रीन ग्रीन कलर थिबो
डेस्कटॉप रे मिनिमाइज कर देबी
जूम आप खोलंतु मैम हां
हैला कि eye banking and keratoplasty. Good evening. So today I will discuss on eye banking and keratoplasty. Eye bank. Am I audible?
Ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So eye banking. So what is eye bank? Eye bank is a non-profit community or non-profitable community organization which deal with the collection, storage and distribution of corneas for the purpose of corneal grafting, for research purpose and supply of the other tissues like sclera and limbal tissue for other purposes. So why eye banking is required actually? Eye banking is required to store the eyes and ear. So there are about 40 million blind people in the world, and in India around 15 million blind people are there. Out of them, corneal blind people are 4.6 millions. According to ICMR research, 25% of total blind in India are due to corneal blindness. The various causes of corneal blindness are infection, injury, corneal degenerations, vitamin A deficiency leading to keratomalacia and ultimately corneal opacity. So these opaque corneas, they can be replaced by a transparent cornea, but these transparent cornea are not available commercially. So it has to be donated by some person, and after donation, it has to be stored in some bank. In eye bank, the donated corneas or eyeballs, they are tested for its suitability for the transplantation, and after testing whether when it is suitable, the suitable corneas only are given to the corneal surgeons for transplantation. And while collecting eye or corneal tissue, blood is also collected to check any communicable disease in the presence of any communicable disease in the donors. So that blood should be tested for HIV, HBS, or presence of any septicemia like that. If it is present, then that corneas are not utilized for keratoplasty. They are utilized for research purpose. And there are various types of storage of the eye or corneal tissue in the eye bank. One is known as a short-term storage, that is 40, where it can be stored for 48 hours. So in short term, there are two methods. We can store whole eyeball or corneal tissue. When we store whole eyeball in a moist chamber, which is a wide mouth bottle, we can store whole eyeball, but we transplant only cornea. So by short-term method, we can preserve in a moist chamber method up to 48 hours, and in MK media where corneal tissue is preserved, it can be stored up to 96 hours. And in intermediate term, we can keep up to 4 to 1 week to 1 to 2 weeks. Other preservative medias are there. And long-term storage, sometimes organ culture method is also there, and sometimes cryopreservation method is also, we can store the corneas in the eye bank. Then corneal transplantation. Corneal transplantation can be full thickness corneal transplantation or partial thickness corneal transplantation. The full thickness corneal transplantation is a replacement of full thickness of the cornea with a full thickness recipient cornea over the full thickness donor cornea. And partial thickness keratoplasty is when the partial thickness of the cornea is affected, known as lamellar keratoplasty. It can be anterolamellar keratoplasty or posterolamellar keratoplasty. So most of the cases we here see are leukomatous corneal opacity, full thickness corneal opacity with adherent leukoma, where partial thickness keratoplasty is not possible. We usually do full thickness keratoplasty or penetrating keratoplasty, and recently we have started partial thickness keratoplasty also. Posterior keratoplasty, this corneal endothelium is removed and it is replaced in case of bullous keratopathy cases.
Excuse me, madam. हाँ, तो करा. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Excuse me, slide to move करो नहीं
Okay.
move करो.
So now I would like to show the corneas collected in our eye bank. Total 336 corneas we have collected since the year of 2003. Actually, our eye bank was registered on 2005, but previously people were not ever so much aware, so they were not donating their eyes. But gradually, previously only 1, 2, 2, 3 corneas were being collected, but now it has been increased. Something. So this is the data of eye balls collected and keratoplasty done in our eye bank. In our institute, keratoplasty is being done. Transplantation were being done. And the thing is, whatever eyeballs we are collecting is from home collection. But from if we collect the eyes from hospital, then the quality of the cornea will be good, because younger corneas you can get, there are very more advantages are there when we collect eyes from here. But in our setup, we are most of the eyeballs are collected from the home collection. About 236 were collected from home. 100 corneas were collected from our hospital till now. But for this collection of the eyes from hospital, we need support and cooperation from other departments like our casualty, cardiology, surgery department, medicine department, where the death rates are high. So we can motivate persons in these departments so that hospital corneal retrieval can be done. We had in these recently we had collected eyes from cardiology department and some from medicine departments also.
Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am.
Hello.
हाँ ma'am. Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am.
Hello. Not audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
So what happened? Nothing is
Ma'am, you are
visible
not
or
audible, ma'am.
audible. मैडम रो लिंक खराब है जैसे लिंक
मैडम को कॉल कर विजय
विजय मैडम को फोन करी को
डी लिंक है जैसी आउथरे जॉइन करंतु
विजय व्हाट हैपेंड
मैडम को सर नेट येटा कनेक्टेड अछि किंतु सुबुनी सर
सो कैन वी गो अहेड विद द नेक्स्ट स्पीकर आई थिंक
मैम टोल्ड दैट वी मे गो अहेड
हां देन यू आस्क फॉर अदर्स नेक्स्ट स्पीकर टू प्लीज कंटिन्यू
so the next topic in today's webinar is glaucoma, a sneak thief of sight by Dr. K.C. Tudu sir.
विजय
हाँ सर स्क्रीन आसुची सर
केमती स्लाइड केमती देखेबी
आपण सर से शेयर स्क्रीन को जानतु सर आपण को जूम ऐप रे आपण जो कि आपण देखुचंती सेठी मझिरे गोटे शेयर स्क्रीन थिवो ग्रीन कलर रो
हां सेटा मारली तो
हां सेटा मारला पर आपण सेटा डेस्कटॉप रे रखी चंती तो आपण जो येटा हां सेटा क्लिक करंतु आसीबो आपण को जोटा प्रेजेंटेशन ता आपण स्क्रीन रे प्रेजेंटेशन ता मारंतु सर आसीबो
सर लेफ्ट साइड रे थिबो आइकन देखंतु आपण डेस्कटॉप रो आइकन ता थिबो
ना ना इट इज डेस्कटॉप को तो जाउनी ना एटा
यू सर शेयर स्क्रीन रे आपण क्लिक करंतु ग्रीन जोछि करले सर शेयर स्क्रीन रे ग्रीन कहां दैट रे आइकन आसीबो लेफ्ट साइड रे देखंतु आइकन आसीबो आपण डेस्कटॉप रे जहा रखि देबे शेयर स्क्रीन क्लिक करंतु सर
एटा कोन प्लस टाइप रो आसुची
लेफ्ट साइड रे थिबो सर आइकन ना पर डेस्कटॉप आइकन दा पळा आसीबो
ना ना ये शेयर स्क्रीन तो आसुची
हां शेयर स्क्रीन को क्लिक करले आपण लेफ्ट साइड रे डेस्कटॉप रे गोटे आइकन टे आसीबो लेफ्ट साइड रे शेयर स्क्रीन करंतु सर आसुने किछि
अरे शेयर स्क्रीन तो मारुची
ऐसे जूम को क्लिक करो जूम को
जूम खाली बाहरला तापरे काई से
हेलो
हां मैडम सर आपण सर से जो जूम को जानतु सर जोठी हमर मीटिंग ता हमर आसी एटा आपण को जूम स्क्रीन ता आसी सर
हां
कौन सी एक्टर
ए पड़ो
जूम को क्लिक करो जूम को
नहीं कुर्सी है ना
प्रति डिपार्टमेंट रे माने टेक्नो लिटरेसी दरकार समस्त गोटे गोटे मॉक सेशन करी की एवरीबॉडी शुड बी यूज्ड टू इट
सर बैक करके पुणी आउथरे शेयर करंतु सर
एरा बैक करी
बैक करके शेयर करंतु हबो बैक करंतु सर
मोंटी सर कोई सारे ना बहंती सर
स्क्रीन करंतु
बहंती सर
सर ग्रीन आइकॉन को क्लिक करंतु आसीबो सर
ଆସିଲା କି ରବି
ନାଇଁ सर आसुनी सर आपण शेयर स्क्रीन करंतु आपण डेस्कटॉप रे रखिले सर प्रेजेंटेशन टाको
हां डेस्कटॉप रे रखिसी मिनिमाइज करी रखिसी
हां देन शेयर स्क्रीन करंतु सर शेयर
एठी कोन एठी अछि बरा खोलो एटा किबा खोलनी
शेयर स्क्रीन टा क्लिक करंतु सर हां एबे आसिला देखंतु
आसिला
हां हां आसिला सर करंतु
आसिला
So good evening to all, respected our chairpersons and all the dignitaries. So today I am speaking on the glaucoma blindness burden. So first coming to what is glaucoma. So glaucoma is the most dreaded sight-threatening disease and one of the leading cause of blindness in the world. And this is also known as the silent killer of the vision or sneak thief of the vision. But fortunately, this disease is treatable, but unfortunately, this is not untreatable, unpreventable. So very older definition is it is a condition where the intraocular pressure of the eyeball increases more than normal, and normal intraocular pressure is 10 to 21 millimeter of the mercury. But this definition is established nowadays. They are telling the intraocular pressure is only the risk factor for glaucoma. So now the recent definition for glaucoma is the chronic progressive optic neuropathy caused by a group of ocular conditions which lead to damage of optic nerve with loss of visual function that are frequently associated with raised intraocular pressure. So now glaucoma definition is this is a chronic progressive optic neuropathy caused by a group of ocular conditions which lead to damage of optic nerve with loss of visual function that are frequently associated with raised intraocular pressure. So this is not a single disease entity. This is a group of ocular diseases, and the chief of among these diseases is the chronic progressive optic neuropathy, which leads to the decrease of vision and the loss of visual field. So the main cause of this optic nerve damage is the raised intraocular pressure, and this raised intraocular pressure will press on the neuroretinal rim and the optic nerve, and also it will decrease the optic nerve blood flow. So, and all these will result the loss of the visual field. So, cardinal sign of glaucoma are the raised intraocular pressure, cupping of optic disc, and visual field defect. So, most key fact about the glaucoma are the blindness in the world. In 2010 census, this is the second leading cause of blindness in the world and first leading cause of irreversible bilateral blindness in the world. So, and next, second fact is that there is no cure yet for glaucoma. That means once the blindness from glaucoma occurs, there is no known treatment to restore the lost vision. But almost every cases, the blindness from glaucoma is preventable, and this requires the early detection and the proper treatment. The third fact is everyone is at risk for glaucoma. That means newborn to senior citizen, everyone is at risk for this disease, but older people have the more risk than the newborns. And fourth fact is there is no symptom to warn you. That's why this is known as the silent killer of the vision or sneak thief of the vision, as it takes away the vision without any warning signs, symptoms. So, this pie graph shows the blindness burden in the world due to different diseases. The cataract is the first leading cause of blindness in the world, that is 51%, and glaucoma is the second leading cause of blindness, that is 8%. The glaucoma blindness burden in the world are the estimated prevalence of glaucoma in the world is was about 60.5 million in 2010, and it is expected to increase to the 79.6 million by the 2020. And Asian have contributed 47% of those with glaucoma and 87% of those with angle closure glaucoma. So in India, there are 12 million people are affected, accounting for about 12.8% of the country's blindness. So this glaucoma should be differentiated from the other two conditions, that is ocular hypertension. That is ocular hypertension. In case of ocular hypertension, there will be bilateral increase in intraocular pressure, but there will be no cupping of the optic disc and no visual field defect. And these patients should be kept under observation, as some of them may develop open angle glaucoma. So another condition to be differentiated is the low tension glaucoma, or this is also called the normal tension glaucoma. The normal, here the intraocular pressure is normal, but there will be characteristic visual field defect and cupping of the optic disc. And this is the variety of the open angle glaucoma and may be associated with cardiovascular abnormality, which is responsible for the reduced optic nerve and perfusion. So this picture shows the glaucoma continuum, or if the disease is untreated, then the natural course of the disease is divided into three phases: the undetectable phase, asymptomatic phase, and functional impairment phase. So in case in undetectable stage, there will be normal to increase apoptosis. Meaning the ganglion cell, normal ganglion cell death will be enhanced. Then ganglion cell death and associated with axon loss of the nerve fiber layer leads to the retinal nerve fiber layer change, which is undetectable. In asymptomatic phase, the retinal layer fibers, retinal nerve fiber layer changes are detectable, and this detection is only by the some structural test like OCT. And in functional impairment, there will be short wavelength automated perimetry, which will detect first the visual field effect. Next is the standard automated perimeter. Usually this standard automated perimeter is now considered as the gold standard to detect or diagnose the glaucoma. And these changes only occurs only about 30 to 40% of the ganglion cell death already occurs. The visual change and then moderate, then visual change severe, and lastly the blindness. So need for early diagnosis. Other studies have proved that the structural changes in glaucoma, that is optic nerve head and retinal nerve fiber layer, precede the functional changes. This has a great potential in delaying and avoiding the progression of the disease. So glaucoma diagnosis is based on the functional analysis and the structural analysis. And in a functional analysis, the tests are the tonometry, standard automated perimetry, and short wavelength automated perimetry, frequency doubling tomography, and HPRS, RP, that is high pass resolution perimetry, and motion detection and perimetry. So these tonometry, we have the most advanced tonometer here, that is NCT, non-contact tonometers, applanation tonometers, and older method, that is COH tonometer also present in our department. And short, that is SAP test, that is standard automated perimeter, that is we have the most advanced machine, that is Humphrey visual field analyzer we have, and with that machine we also perform the SWAP test. So these 4 tests we are performing in our department. For structural analysis, there are ophthalmoscopy, photography. We have a fundus photograph camera, and gonioscopy. For gonioscopy, different gonial lens are there. And for UBM or ultrasound biomicroscopy, we have for angle analysis. And this HRT and GDX are not here, but OCT we have a most advanced machine, that is Heidelberg OCT machines for diagnosis, structural analysis. The functional test, the gold standard of modern functional assessment of the glaucoma is the standard automatic or white on white perimetry. The disadvantage for a abnormality until between the 25 to 50% of the ganglion cell have been lost. So it manifests the visual field white on white manifesto very lately. That means advanced stages of the ganglion cell death. The structural tests are the gold standard structural analysis of glaucoma are the ophthalmoscopy, slit lamp biomicroscopy, and stereophotograph of the optic disc. And recently added is the optical coherence tomography or OCT. The disadvantages depend on the skill and expertise of the observer and high intra-observer and inter-observer variability. This is the OCT machine we have. This is objectively measure the retinal nerve fiber layer thickness and optic disc parameters and ganglion cell complex. So nowadays this is indispensable tools for diagnosis of the glaucoma and also progression of the disease. So this OCT machine will scan the optic disc and retinal nerve fiber layer thickness around the parapapillary lesion, and it will scan the macular thickness, macular ganglion cell, because these 3 regions are mainly affected by the glaucoma. So in conclusion, glaucoma can cause the blindness if it is left untreated, and diagnosis is the first step to preserve the vision, and OCT provides the invaluable information for diagnosis nowadays, and its reports should be used with the clinical picture and with the automated perimetry printout. Thank you all.
Thank you, Doctor, to do a nice presentation.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Okay, sir.
As different department of are present here, like medicine, surgeries, pediatrics, sir, I want to know for them actually what will be the take-home message when they should refer a patient and they will think that it is a glaucoma patient, when they should refer to a glaucoma specialist rather than an ophthalmologist, sir.
When they will
refer to when they were seeing different patients in their department, when they will send a patient to for a glaucoma evaluations.
glaucoma evaluation,
Suppose
there is no specific, but it is a, as I have told, it is a symptomless. In case of POAG, there is no symptom at all. So this is diagnosed only by routine examination of the eye. So, but very usual symptom is the headache. So headache is the very common complaint for glaucoma.
Sir, apart from that, sir, I think suppose a medicine specialist in, I would like to, sir, yes, ma'am. Suppose a patient, suppose a lot medicine specialist is seeing a patient, and the patient is complaining, sir, I have frequent changes of glasses. That will be, I think they can detect glaucoma, maybe a symptoms like that can be watched.
That is also frequent changes of prescriptive glasses.
And they go to medicine department. Yes, it is. Times we have come across such type of cases as acute gastritis. They go to medicine department, and there they saw, if they see their pain, redness in the eye, I think this should refer them.
Thank you, sir, for such a nice presentation. Next topic is childhood blindness by Dr. Gopeshwari Hota, madam.
Good evening to all the dignitaries and dear colleagues. I am thankful to my professor and HOD for giving me opportunity to take part in this webinar. So my topic is, you all know that the definition of blindness according to WHO criteria, when the best corrected visual acuity is less than 3/60 in the better eye, then we denote that person as blind. So there are various causes of blindness. Among them, childhood blindness is most important because it does not cause only problem to the child but also to the family as well as to the community. So globally, there are about 1.5 million children are blind, out of which about 1 million children are from Asia, and about 5 million children are visually handicapped, but they are not blind. So blind population is 1.5 million. The major causes of blindness are cataract 43%, glaucoma 15%, diabetic retinopathy 8%, trachoma 11%, vitamin A deficiency 6%, and onchocerciasis 1%. Out of these 6 major causes, the last 3, that means the trachoma, vitamin A deficiency, and onchocerciasis are major cause of childhood blindness globally. And the main classification of visual blindness in case of children are, there are 2 main classifications. One is anatomical classification and another is etiological. So anatomical classification is based on that which part of the eye is affected for causing blindness, like the whole globe, there may be microphthalmos, enophthalmos, phthisis bulbi, or and in case of cornea, there may be scarring, there may be opacity, there may be enterostaphyloma, there may be cataractous lens, dislocation of the lens, aphakia, and in case of uvea, there may be aniridia, coloboma, uveitis, and in retina, the most important cause is retinopathy of prematurity, retinal dystrophy, retinal detachment, and vasculitis. And in case of glaucoma in children, they present with buphthalmos. As we all know that buphthalmos means the child present like bullseye, and the optic nerve atrophy, hypoplasia, and other causes of cortical blindness. These are the anatomical classification of defective impaired vision in children. Coming to the etiological classification, that may be hereditary due to chromosomal disorder or single gene defect. Intrauterine causes like mother suffering from congenital rubella or fetal alcohol syndrome. Perinatal causes like ophthalmia neonatum. The children develops the conjunctivitis within 1 month of birth, that is ophthalmia neonatum, retinopathy of prematurity, and birth trauma. And childhood, the common cause is vitamin A deficiency, measles, and trauma. And unclassified causes are impossible to determine. Then these are the major causes of blindness. This table shows the major causes of blindness and the geographical distribution. In developing world, cataract, glaucoma, trachoma, vitamin A deficiency, onchocerciasis, diabetic retinopathy, and ARMD, age-related macular degeneration. Whereas in developed country, refractive error, glaucoma, cataract, diabetic retinopathy, and ARMD. Then regional distribution of blindness in children shows that Asia is having about 1,200 children under the age of 16 years per million population, and the prevalence of blindness for 1,000 children is 0.9, and the estimated number of blindness is 10,80,000. So prevention and treatment. The data is taken from Blind School Survey, and it has been seen that about 50% of childhood blindness can be preventable. So the preventable causes of blindness are vitamin A deficiency, ophthalmia neonatum, hereditary diseases, and treatable diseases are cataract and glaucoma. And this constitute about 47% of avoidable blindness. So the plan of action should be taken at primary level. Means at the primary level, we should must identify the risk of population, the population who are at risk, and implementing preemptive measure. Suppose malnutrited child, so they are the most risk person. So the treatment of vitamin A deficiency according to immunization schedule should be given. Prevention of ophthalmia neonatum. To prevent this, cleaning of the eye with after birth, hygienic conditions should be maintained, aseptic conditions should be maintained during the delivery, and immunization should be given against measles. Vaccination should be given against rubella in all children at 1 year of age, and in pre-pubertal girls at about 10 to 12 years of age. At secondary level, management of ocular injuries, corneal ulcers, refractive error correction.
Okay, not audible.
Sir, not audible.
Audible, ma'am.
Audible.
Audible.
So we should do the prevention at the secondary level by management of ocular injuries and treatment of corneal ulcers, correction of the refractive error, and if it is not possible to treat at secondary level, we should refer that case to tertiary level center. At tertiary level, screening and treatment of ROP, retinopathy of prematurity, management of cataract, corneal opacities, glaucoma, strabismus, and complicated case of ocular trauma should be managed at tertiary healthcare center. So screening of eye diseases is most important in the children to prevent the blindness in case of children. So how it can be screening? Screening can be done at 3 phases. It can be done at birth, at preschool age, and at the school going age. So at birth, we can screen the children even with a simple torch light. Nowadays, we have also facilities of handheld slit lamp. We can use also that. So by that, we can screen if the child is having ophthalmos, cataract, ophthalmia neonatum, any developmental anomalies like microphthalmos, anophthalmos, nystagmus, squint, retinopathy of prematurity can be
Not
tested.
audible, not visible. What happened?
Sir, your net might be slow, sir. It is audible and visible, sir. No, it is audible, ma'am. It is audible and visible.
Sir, you might have
audible, but clearly not audible.
Clearly not audible.
No, it is actually clearly audible to me.
You have to go on.
It is World Sight Day. That's why the sight is playing hide and seek.
Yes, sir.
So, retinopathy of prematurity should not be examined with a torchlight or slit lamp. It should be examined with indirect ophthalmoscope by a trained observer. And in case of preschool children, examination for squint, amblyopia, retinoblastoma, and most important is vitamin A deficiency. In case of school-going children, refractive error is the common cause of blindness. So refractive error should be corrected, and school health programs should be carried out to know the magnitude of refractive error blindness in case of school children. So the take-home message is early diagnosis and prompt management can prevent the childhood blindness. Awareness of the people about the screening of their children at early age group, and strict immunization schedule and vaccination to be followed for prevention of vitamin A deficiency and rubella and measles. Education and hygiene and sanitation to prevent the diseases like trachoma as well as ophthalmia neonatum can also be prevented. Thank you to all for listening.
Thank you, madam, for your nice presentation. So today's last topic is about retinopathy of prematurity, when to screen, by Dr. Sasmita Sahu, madam.
Hello. Yes, audible.
So the slides are visible or not?
Yes, visible.
Yes, ma'am. So good evening, respected teachers, colleagues and dear friends. Today on the occasion of World Sight Day, I am going to speak about the retinopathy of prematurity. So ROP in short, this is an important cause of preventable blindness, and of course it occurs in the premature baby, and this is an important hot topic now because the third epidemic has started in India and other developing countries, where because of the increased facility of the healthcare system, the premature or preterm babies are surviving because of the better facility in the NICU and SNCU. The childs are surviving, the children are surviving. So nowadays the burden is very much high. So the ROP is an hot topic now. So coming to the introduction of this disease, ROP, this is also known as retrolental fibroplasia, and this is a disease of the retinal vasculature in immature retina of the premature neonate. So the first disease starts as vasoproliferation, where there is proliferation of the vessels. That means there is vasculogenesis and angiogenesis that leads to new vessel formation, and there occurs bleeding, and that leads to cicatrizing changes in the retina, in the developing retina. So coming to the global are born in India, around 1/3 of them are preterm, and globally the ROP is estimated to affect more than 50,000 infants. And in India, around 500 children are estimated to be blind from ROP. So coming to the embryogenesis of this disease, this is in short, the retinal vascularization starts as around 16 weeks of gestation, and it started at the posterior pole. later the vessels that started growing around 21 to 22 weeks. And the angiogenesis means once the vessel has grown, the angiogenesis, that means the all the layers of this blood vessel will grow and it reaches the nasal ora. That means the ora is the important part of the retina. This is the most peripheral part of the retina, and it reaches the nasal ora around 37 weeks, and in the temporal ora around 38 weeks of post-menstrual age. Post-menstrual age is calculated from the gestational age. That means when the child is born, that is the gestational age of the baby. And when on the present date, that means, for example, if the baby is born around on 30th September, so 30th September up to that is the gestational age. Beyond 30th September, on a today's date, that is around, so for example, 21 October. So 21, three weeks should be added to the gestational age. That is the post-menstrual age is calculated. And this is important because the 34 week to 36 week of gestational age, the PMA is the most important phase where there occur more chances of this development of ROP. So coming to the pathogenesis, the premature babies, when there is hypoxia at birth, so when you give higher concentration of oxygen, for example, 60 to 80 millimeter of mercury, then there occur this vasosegation. Vasosegation leads to vasoproliferation, and this vasoproliferation gradually there occur new vessel formation and there occur bleeding, and that leads to cicatrizing changes in the retina. So in oxygen concentration is very much important. Whenever in the NICU or SNC they're giving oxygen, the oxygen PO2 more than 80 millimeter mercury is believed to be damaging to the newly developed retinal vessel. This is most important. That is the more than 80 millimeter mercury. So risk factors are many, but the most important crucial factors are the birth weight and the gestational age. So birth weight is when it is less than 1500 grams, that means 1.5 kg. But in Indian setup, we can take up to 1750 gram, or less than 2 kg also we can take the baby. And gestational age is universal age, this is applicable, this is less than 34 weeks of gestation. So less than 34 weeks of gestation, less than 1500 gram universally, but in Indian setup it is 1750 gram. And the number of days of oxygen administered, this is also matters, but this is not the crucial factor. This crucial factor is the preterm baby and the low birth weight. Other factors are the twin pregnancy or blood transfusion or respiratory distress syndrome or neonatal sepsis. This is also an important factor, very much important. Neonatal sepsis, respiratory distress syndrome, the multiple birth or twin pregnancy or seizures or intraventricular hemorrhage. These are the very much important factors. And also the oxygen therapy. If the child is getting oxygen through the nasal prong, that is much more damaging than getting through the CPAP. So screening criteria, so this is important. The whom to screen this baby, I have already told that is less than 1500 gram, in India 1750 gram, and gestational age is less than 34 weeks. And oxygen therapy, more than 30 days is much more a risk factor, but 10 days, 15 days also it matters. And if the child is less than 1200 gram, or less than 30 weeks of gestation, then we do early screening, that is around 3 weeks. But if the child is, sometimes we do screening in older babies. For example, in 37 term babies, if there is associated RDS or sepsis or all these risk factors are there, then we do screening also in term babies. So when to screen, this is our topic, when to screen. So I have already told screening, this is 30-day strategy, less than 34 weeks, less than 1750 gram. That means the famous slogan is 30 din rosary ke. And 20-day strategy is applicable for the gestational age, less than 30 weeks of baby and 1200 grams of baby. So how, for our ophthalmologists, how to screen, I am not giving detail. So dilatation of the pupil, this is important because this is done in the pediatrics department. So how they will dilate the pupil. The dilatation of pupil is very much important because the the drops are, we are preparing the drops because the drops are not available commercially. Previously it was available by the your Orbin Eye Hospital, that is Oropen, that drop was available, but nowadays this is not available. So we are preparing the drops by diluting the adult drops. So the phenylephrine should be 2.5%, tropicamide 0.5 to 1%. So how they will prepare the drop? So first they have to take the drop and the CMC, the carboxymethyl cellulose drop that is available in our Niramaya also, and that drop should be added to 50% concentration. So 5 ml, if 5 ml is taken from the CMC drop, and that is added, and 2.5 ml is removed from the drop. That means from the phenylephrine tropicamide combination drop, 2.5 has to be removed, and 5 ml is to be added to that drop, and that concentration will be, the required concentration will be available. So installation of drop is around 2 to 3 times maximum. You should not put the drop because this will lead to fatal tachycardia or fatal hyperthermia or dehydration. Even if we are putting the drop, when this drop coming out from the eye, this should be wiped because the drop also get absorbed through the skin. So it should be wiped out, and the child should be fed 1 hour burped. The feeding should not be given because of the poor their reflexes. The chances of aspiration is higher. So we counsel the patient, the parents, about the feeding and the burping preferably 1 hour before. Feeding should not be given, and the baby should be examined under clean and warm environment. The AC fan should be switched off. The baby should be wrapped in a clean cloth, linen, and it should be done under the guidance of the neonatologist, and it should be the child should be monitored by the pulse oximeter. And proper hand hygiene should be maintained. Those who are examining or handling the baby all should wear the gloves, mask, cap, etc. because the chances of sepsis, all these are there. So we have to wear the proper this gowns, sterile gown, and cap, mask, etc. The assistant who are also handling the baby should also wear all these clothes. So ROP classification, I'm only briefly telling about the ROP. What is ROP? This is retinopathy of prematurity. This disease was first observed in USA and UK. The first epidemic started in the 1940 to 60, and in that period, because of the incubator started coming in that countries, and the oxygen therapy, all these have started, and the childs are surviving, but the childs are becoming blind after. So they observed that what is the cause of this blindness. So they observed that the culprit is the oxygen. So they started discontinuing the use of oxygen. But after that, the children they are dying. So they give the oxygen, but that in a controlled manner. So oxygen is given as a drop, not as a therapy. So oxygen should be given in a proper concentration and proper way. So these are the zones of the second. Another was the second epidemic. This also started in the Western countries. And this occurs in the increased survival of the tiny babies. That is around 500 to 600 gram babies, and less than 24 weeks gestation. And the third epidemic is now started in India and other developing countries. And the result you are seeing now. So zones of ROP are the different zones. The retina is divided into 3 zones: zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Zone 1 means the zone 1 is the retina, that portion of the retina that includes the optic disc and the macula. So it is around 6 millimeter in radius. And the zone 2 is to the nasal ora serrata and extending, and on the temporal aspect, it is extending up to the equator of the retina. And the zone 3 is the temporal crescent of this is only the temporal crescent, this is the zone 3. So zone 1 includes the optic disc and the macula, and it is around 6 millimeter in diameter and 6 millimeter in radius. Then zone 2 is the nasal ora and temporal ora up to the equator of the retina, and the temporal most eccentric shape is this is the zone 3. So different stages of this ROP are there are 5 stages of ROP: stage 1, stage 0, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Stage 0 is the immature vascularization. This is not seen in only preterm, very much tiny, less than 24 weeks gestational age. And stage 1 means the line of demarcation. Stage 2 is the reach. Stage 3 is the extraretinal fibrovascular proliferation. Stage 4 is the partial RD with involvement or without involvement of the macula. And stage 5 is the total RD. So these are the, so I am showing the picture. This is the immature retina. This is the immature retina. All these blood vessels, these are the retinal vessels. All these small, these are all hazy vessels. These are the choroidal vessels. These are the choroidal vessels are seen because of the thin retina. The retina is not so much developed. And this portion of this is up to zone 1. This is zone 1 is only developed. Zone 2, 3 is undeveloped. This is the immature retina. So immature vascularization, this is the retinal blood vessel. All these are the underlying choroidal blood vessels are seen. So you may confuse it with stage 3 ROP. So this is the line of demarcation where you can see the vascularized retina and the avascular retina. In between there is a line, and I am showing you the image. Here is the image. This image is yesterday. I did a case on screening, and I found the babies. This is the demarcation line, and you can see here also demarcation line, and this is the reach. This is the stage 2 ROP. The line will be widened enough, and the blood vessels sitting here and started. There is no further development of the blood vessels. This is the avascular retina, and this is the stage 3 ROP. There is already new vessel formation is there up to the reach. These new vessels are there. This is retina. You can see here also. And this is the partial RD, retina detachment, where the macula is spared here. Here there is the involvement of the macula. And this is the total RD. Only a small portion of it attaches. Otherwise, there is whole retina detachment is there. So extent of the disease, this is also important. It should be the retina is divided into 12 clock hours when it is 5 clock hours continuous. When it is 5 continuous clock hours or 8 non-contiguous clock hours, then the disease is treatable. That means you refer the patient for the treatment. So pre-plus, this is also an important aspect of this disease. Pre-plus and plus, this means the blood vessels are dilated and tortuous. The vessels are, as compared to the normal retinal vessels, these are slightly dilated and tortuous. That means there is, they are not straightened. These are tortuous blood vessels are there. And plus disease means, this means there is the tortuosity is much more. Whether you are able to see or not, the tortuosity is much more. And the dilatation of the vessels are also much more. So APROP, this is the nowadays APROP is very much important because this is a very much sight threatening. Immediately this the child may goes to permanent blindness if you are not treated earlier. That means the crucial period of treating once the diagnosis is made, the treatment should be started as early as possible. Within 24 to 48 hours, you have to treat the baby. So this is the dilated tortuous vessel. You can see the hemorrhages here in the retina near the macula. You can see here. These are the hemorrhages in near the optic disc. These are the dilated tortuous blood vessels. Here you can see the reach also. You can see the extraretinal fibrovascular proliferation. So all these are suggestive of APROP, and here you can how you will suspect the disease, whether the baby has developed the APROP. Once you putting the drop, but the pupil is not dilating. That means rigid pupil. Rigid pupil is there, and when you examine the on anterior segment, you will see tiny vessels in over the iris. So that means new vessels in the iris also you can see. So this is APROP. This is very much. This is otherwise called as Ross disease or aggressive posterior ROP. So how frequently you have to follow up the baby? Once you have screened the baby, you find whether in which stage the baby is now, whether stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, whether. So up to stage 3 you can treat. Stage 4, stage 5 means that is visually very much disabling. The visual prognosis is very much poor. So stage 4 ROP means they need vitreoretinal surgery. Stage 4 and stage 5 ROP. Stage 3 ROP is the stage where we treat the babies. And stage 1 or stage 2 ROP, we follow up the baby. So follow up is up to stage 2. Stage 3 ROP is treatable by laser or anti-VEGF, and stage 4 and stage 5 ROP needs vitreoretinal surgery. So follow-up schedule is when it is the zone 3 is the safest zone. Zone 3 is the safest zone. But when the disease is located in the zone 1, this is the danger zone. So stage 1, you have to follow up the babies around 1 to 2 weeks or less than 1 week, depending on the stage. And on zone 3, you can wait for 2 to 3 weeks. So treatment facility is retinal ablation by doing laser, and cryo is now obsolete because this is done under general anesthesia. The complications are much more higher. And laser is by a diode rate laser, 810 nanometer wavelength is given. And this retinal ablation is also done by the green laser also. This is done under topical anesthesia. This is proparacaine eye drop. And the child can be discharged on the same day, but it should be done under the observation of the neonatologist. So this should be done under observation of the neonatology, especially in a NICU setup, because the chances of apnea, chances of hypoglycemia is higher. So it needs around 2 hours to complete both the eyes. Laser therapy and scleral buckling, vitrectomy, all these are for the stage 4 and stage 5 ROP. Nowadays, anti-VEGF is given, that is anti-bevacizumab is given. And this is the studies going on, that is the BEAT ROP, BEAT BEAT, bevacizumab eliminates the angiogenic threat of ROP, that is BEAT ROP. There are other studies also, this HOPE ROP, STOP ROP, LIGHT ROP, very many studies are going on. So this BEAT ROP is nowadays, this is very much prevalent. And before giving this, especially in AP-ROP cases, they are giving anti-VEGF, that is around 0.6 to 5 milligram in intravitreal injections are given. And this is also done under topical anesthesia. And how treatment guidelines is when the disease is located in the zone 1, that means any stage, zone 1, any stage with plus, always treat the baby. And zone 1, stage 3, without plus. So zone 1, any stage with plus, or stage, any stage means zone 1, 2,